Imagine a foreign force preying on you, invading your body, feeding off of your blood, multiplying and growing inside of you. This is The F Word, a podcast about the underinvestigated and often misunderstood world of fibroids. I've spent over 10 years of my life trying to understand in as many ways as I can this foreign invader inside my body. And along the way, I met incredibly brave women, plenty of doctors, as well as organizations and communities, all of which are trying to understand the hows and the whys and the whats of fibroids. In these episodes, we'll unpack the stories women are telling about their fibroids, sometimes in excruciating details.
My fibroid story is a long story.
One day I went into the bathroom and literally I counted 24 clots come out of me.
It got so bad to the point where I couldn't go to work.
I was diagnosed with fibroids back in 1989. I was 3 months pregnant.
During a routine gynecological exam, my doctor had felt something in my abdomen.
And I actually found out that I had fibroids when I found out I was pregnant.
I did not want to have, of course, a hysterectomy. I didn't even want to have a myomectomy at that time.
Over the years, the side effects of the hysterectomy were, I cried a lot. Because there was part of me that didn't feel like a woman anymore.
In these conversations, I was often taken aback by how similar our stories are.
I had one myomectomy, and my friends are back.
I've had 3 myomectomies and 1 hysterectomy.
We'll explore why hysterectomies are the norm when there are plenty of other treatment options available.
That's my story.
Did your doctor tell you about any other treatment options other than hysterectomy?
The doctor didn't give me any other alternatives.
We'll hear from doctors with varied practices discussing other treatment options, like the connection between nutrition and fibroids.
Integrative holistic medicine is really a combination of using different forms of healing with a holistic philosophy.
So holistic is finding a way to create balance in your life. So I'm able to help people to use foods and juices and herbs and natural ways to balance out the energy.
We want them to digest the protein in the fibroid. I always use one of these systemic enzymes when working with a patient who has fibroids.
Maybe knowing that take ginger, or taking your goldenrod tea, or taking your hot soot baths.
We'll also get into legislative actions like Tanika Gray Valburn's initiative to get July named Fibroid Awareness Month. And we'll investigate whether there is an historical context for this disease. Is there a link between fibroids and generational trauma? And why does it disproportionately impact women of color?
Black women internalize all the pain that we have experienced as Black people, and certainly we have internalized all of the trauma that we've had. And I call these fibroids our unborn children.
I always spoke to him in French from the time I was about 6 months old. Yes.
I'm eating as fast as I can.
Excellent.
Lastly, yet perhaps most importantly, we'll dive into the super complicated matter of childbirth, exploring whether it's even a possibility and what happens when women try. So here it all is, 10 years of research into the reality of fibroids. But before we get into all of that, here's my story. My fibroid story is, I moved to California from New York City. I'm an actress. About a year after I got to California, I went to a GYN for a routine checkup, and she told me that I had fibroids, but she said, don't worry about them, we'll just watch them. And I just thought that was so enlightened, of her to say that, because I'm so used to doctors always trying to cut every time they see something wrong with someone. I would say about a year after that, I ended up in an emergency room because I was in severe pain. I had the worst cramps of my life. I actually had an ectopic pregnancy years ago, and there's no pain like an ectopic pregnancy. They say it's worse than childbirth, probably because you don't actually have the gift of a child after experiencing all that pain. So the pain was that bad. And I went to the hospital, went to the emergency room, And, you know, racist doctors, they want to give me a rape test, a test for pelvic inflammatory disease, some kind of, you know, sexually transmitted disease test. And my husband's sitting right there. When I got out of the hospital the next day, of course they couldn't find anything wrong. So after that, I went to another doctor, general practitioner. She examined me, said I had fibroids that were and that they were really large, and I would probably have to have a hysterectomy. And she recommended me go to a GYN. I went to a GYN. She said, "You need a hysterectomy." And I laughed at her. I said, "You must be kidding." I said, "There's no way I'm having a hysterectomy." I was like, "There's no way." And she started hitting herself in the head. "You are in denial. You are in denial. You need a hysterectomy, and don't get mad at me because I'm the messenger. Everybody's gonna tell you the same thing, but you need a hysterectomy." So I left a Caucasian doctor, you know, and I went to my car and I cried. But I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me cry. So I immediately started looking up holistic treatments. And the only other type of treatment that I knew other than a hysterectomy at that time was to try and get rid of my fibroids naturally. I would have blood clots, and I'm not exaggerating, the size of my hand. It was like liver, snaked down my leg, past the pad because it couldn't adhere. And it was just embarrassing. I was always worried that I would leak, because I would leak. If I sat down for 5 minutes, I would leak through all of the pads. It was horrible. But it kept the cramps from being the type of cramps where I would have to go to the emergency room. So I did several holistic treatments over a course of 4 years. And I don't know whether they helped. I know they did not get rid of all of my fibroids. I would just have to feel that if you give a plant food, you know, that somehow it's nourishing it. It kept me from being symptomatic. You know, I wasn't in as much pain as I was in before, but I still knew I had fibroid. And I also felt healthy. I wasn't tired, even though my hemoglobin was 6, and they were telling me that if I had one more period, I would have a stroke. But I tried acupuncture. I tried Chinese herbs. I went on a total vegan, non-hybrid diet where you can't eat anything.
Where all she could eat was
quinoa,
and cashews.
And cashews and broccoli. I don't know, it wasn't even cashews. Quinoa, broccoli, certain types of mushrooms. The whole theory was you had to eat things that were created by God. Anything that was man-made or that had been genetically altered or that had been...
Couldn't eat corn.
Right, couldn't eat corn because a lot of corn is genetically modified. I couldn't eat things that were not in its original state.
Couldn't eat carrots either.
Couldn't even eat carrots. All I did was make me extremely skinny. It did not get rid of all of my fibroids. I looked like a little lollipop head. One day I just woke up and I was like, if you're gonna get pregnant, you better do it now. And there's no room in your womb for a baby to grow if it wants to grow. So you don't have 15, 20 years to eat like this for your fibroids to go down. You need to go on and, you know, empty this space out so that if you get pregnant, there'll be a place for the fetus to live. Someone told me about a doctor in Beverly Hills, an African-American doctor, who does myomectomies, incredible myomectomies. Girl, she did a myomectomy on a girl one time. Her fibroids were wrapped all the way around her vagina. When I met her, Dr. Dolores Kemp, and I was laying on a table, and she did a little sonogram thing, and she said, "I can do a real good job for you." And I was like, "Hysterectomy?" And she said, No, a myomectomy. I can take the fibroids out and repair your uterus." And I just started crying. And I said, "I'm gonna let you do it." And I remember she took a picture of it and they like laid out on the table. And they were like cantaloupe size, grapefruit size, orange size, apple size. I couldn't believe that, you know, I finally found someone who was gonna do something to help me and not take my uterus away. After my surgery was no walk in the park because I had gas. Felt like it was in my tubes. The stomach was expanding and the gas was expanding the scar, where the cut was. I stayed in the hospital an extra day or two because I couldn't walk around. You need to walk around to release the gas. I couldn't walk around because the gas was too bad for me to get out of the bed. So I was in excruciating pain, and the gas got a little bit better. I still hadn't gone to the bathroom, but she released me. I think a week after I got home, she told me I could walk. 2 weeks after that, I think I was hiking, and 3 weeks after that, I was in the gym, but not doing like ab stuff, but just, doing light weights. When I went for my 6-month checkup, I had another fibroid. We don't know whether it returned or whether another one grew. And so that was an in and out surgery. It took less than an hour. Basically, she went through my navel, she took it out, and that was it. And I was able to walk out of there that day. But since then, they have not returned. I've been getting physicals regularly, and so far it's just totally clean. But I've totally changed. After my surgery, I developed a thyroid problem. So now I'm on thyroid medication. My hormones got thrown off, like, premenopause off. I actually went to a doctor that specializes in hormones, and they recommended the testosterone cream, progesterone cream.
And what was your life like now?
I'm still working on how I handle stress. So I chant, and I try to really have faith in what I chant about and really trust my prayer. I'm back to being a vegan again, so I'm still eating well. I'm doing my 2 and 3 hour hikes and working out. No soy. I don't want soy in any cream that I use. I don't want to eat any soy, so I avoid soy like the plague. And I think that's really going to help me because I believe if you tend to have an estrogen dominant body, that you really need to avoid soy. So yeah, those are the things that I've done. I think any woman who's diagnosed with any condition, it's always important to do your own research. I don't believe it's intelligent to just depend on the doctor's opinion, one, and certainly you need to get a second opinion.
Do you have any children?
I have no children. That day that I woke up and said, you know what, you should clean this house just in case a baby spirit wants to come. They'll have some place to stay. After the surgery, I went to the doctor for my 6-month checkup, and she said, all right, you ready? And I said, you know what? I don't want kids anymore. It passed. It passed. I have nieces and nephews, and they stay with me in the summer. I get to be a mom for the summer, and then I get to be a free woman for the rest of the year. And I am really all right with that.
So now you know my story. In the next episode, we'll hear from other women, some that I met on the street, some that I talked with over a meetup brunch for fibroid survivors, and others that I sat with for formal interviews, all of them brave enough to share their harrowing story. The F Word is hosted by me, PaSean Wilson Ashley, produced by Roderick Giles, Theo Perry, Rhonda Ross, Ghana Wilson, Amelia Winfrey, Robin Green Arrington, and me. Editing and sound design by Avital Ayler. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one.